Also, Andrew Cavett is mentioned in this situation, with claims that Charlie wasn't messaging people the day before saying, "I'm going to be murdered," or that anyone was coming after him. Now, things have taken a turn. Charlie Kirk's mother has stepped forward and is finally speaking out, especially after Erika was accused of reshaping the story. Suddenly, there's a different version of what really happened on Charlie's final night, and this time, people say there are receipts backing it up. What once felt like quiet background chatter has now turned into loud contradictions that are hard to ignore. The timeline Erika shared is being dissected line by line. She had already faced criticism for repeatedly claiming that Charlie was afraid for his life. Some outlets even pushed that narrative, framing it in a way critics say felt almost scripted, like the perfect storyline. Now, some believe Erika is shifting her narrative, trying to present herself as a fearless protector in the room. And that's where things start to get complicated. New claims are circulating about a private dinner Erika reportedly arranged on Charlie's final night. During that dinner, it's alleged there was a Zoom call with a rabbi in Israel, where Charlie was urged to reconsider certain public positions he had taken. If true, that raises serious questions about what was really happening behind closed doors. People are now asking, why that night? Why that conversation? And why at that exact moment? The optics feel off, and the timing feels even worse. Some are even questioning whether that night was less a heartfelt goodbye and more of a strategic discussion. That's a heavy implication. Now, attention is shifting toward newly surfaced receipts, and more importantly, toward how Charlie's mother reacted after learning what may have been discussed privately. According to reports, her reaction wasn't mild. It wasn't dismissed, and it definitely didn't fade into the background. It's now been 5 months since Charlie's assassination, yet the media spotlight hasn't moved. If anything, it's more intense than ever. But then, a contradiction appears. Some say that narrative doesn't fully hold up. According to other claims, after the call with Josh and the rabbi, Charlie went on to send messages to his security chief, Dan Flood. Meanwhile, Erika has remained highly visible, appearing in back-to-back interviews, public events, and polished media appearances. She hasn't stepped away from the spotlight since Charlie's passing. And with every new appearance, more people are beginning to notice a pattern. But one question keeps coming up again and again. Where are Charlie's parents in all of this? They've barely appeared in media coverage, and Erika hasn't spoken much about them publicly. Instead, she has emphasized that her own mother played a motherly role in Charlie's life. That statement alone sparked conversation, because to many, it felt like the focus was being redirected. Now, according to a source close to Charlie's mother, Catherine, his parents have been grieving privately. No cameras, no headlines, just quiet mourning. That part, most people understand. But here's where things start to get tense. The same source claims that what's really bothering Catherine isn't just the media attention. It's the way Erika's version of events seems to keep changing. And these aren't small inconsistencies. Critics are pointing to major differences, details that don't match earlier accounts. That's what's reportedly causing concern behind the scenes. There are also claims that Charlie had a strong sense something might happen, that he felt like he could die the next day. If that's true, people are asking why more individuals aren't speaking openly about it. Catherine reportedly believes her son wasn't just stressed or overworked. She felt he was genuinely shaken near the end. And here's where things take another serious turn. An insider claims that Charlie had even begun questioning Erika herself. That's a heavy allegation, and it changes how people interpret everything surrounding those final days. On top of that, there are reports that Catherine is considering doing an interview with Candace Owens to share her side of the story. If that happens, it could shift the entire narrative very quickly, because the same questions keep coming up. Why does the story keep changing? Was Charlie actually facing serious threats? And was the security being increased before September 10th? Or not? Every time Erika speaks, critics claim new details emerge that don't align with previous statements. It's starting to feel like trying to solve a puzzle where the image keeps changing. And nowhere is that more clear than when comparing the different versions of Charlie's final night. Multiple accounts have been shared, but most of them trace back to Erika's version of events. That's why scrutiny continues to grow. The first major public version came during her September 21st interview with the New York Times, where the timeline was first laid out in detail. At the time, many accepted it without question. According to that report, the night before Charlie traveled to Utah, he had dinner in the Phoenix area with his wife and a friend described as a faith leader. The purpose was to pray over his upcoming college tour. The article claimed both Erika and the friend appeared concerned, even suggesting that Charlie should start wearing a bulletproof vest. That detail stood out immediately. It painted a picture of real fear and rising tension. The report also stated that when Charlie hesitated, the friend suggested speaking behind bulletproof glass. That added another layer, making it seem like everyone at the table believed there was a serious threat. At the time, the story felt clear, structured, and complete. But now, as people revisit timelines and compare later statements, they're starting to question whether everything truly lines up. Erika's original claim was that both she and the faith leader, later identified by Megyn Kelly as a Catholic priest, were deeply concerned for Charlie's safety. She said they urged him to take stronger protective measures. Then, another twist emerged. Megyn Kelly later claimed Erika had been shaken by an article from Jezebel that referenced a supposed curse involving Charlie. According to that version, the article genuinely frightened Erika. But for many people, that explanation didn't land. Critics pointed out that Charlie was no stranger to controversy. He dealt with negative press all the time. So why would one article suddenly trigger that level of fear? That, so which version is accurate? Was there serious concern about safety, bulletproof vests, and protective measures? Or was it just an ordinary, uneventful night before a scheduled event? Those two accounts don't align, and that's exactly why the timeline is under so much scrutiny. In her earlier interview with the New York Times, Erika had said she was genuinely worried about Charlie's safety on September 9th. She even claimed she urged him to consider wearing a bulletproof vest. That is not a minor detail. It implies serious concern. She also described Charlie as being unusually unsettled before the UVU event, saying his adrenal response was elevated. She added that she could hear him moving around the house that night, suggesting restlessness and anxiety. That version painted a very different picture, one of tension, not calm. So critics are asking again, which is it? A restless, uneasy night, or a normal evening with no concern at all? Both narratives cannot be true at the same time, and that inconsistency is what keeps raising questions. Now, there are also claims suggesting that something more complex may have taken place around September 9th that hasn't been fully clarified. Some discussions have referenced conversations involving donors, political pressure, and internal disagreements related to Israel policy and Turning Point USA. According to certain claims shared publicly, tensions were building around messaging, donor expectations, and strategic decisions. One disputed message allegedly suggested Charlie was frustrated with donor pressure and political expectations. However, the authenticity and context of these claims remain debated. Additional commentary from public figures has suggested that a Zoom call may have taken place involving advisors and a religious figure based outside the United States. According to those accounts, the discussion reportedly focused on messaging strategy and public positioning. Some versions even claim that the conversation became heated and included pressure regarding political stances. However, these details remain unverified and heavily contested, with different sources presenting conflicting interpretations of the same timeline. Shortly after these discussions, it has been alleged that Charlie sent messages to members of his team expressing fear for his safety. If accurate, that would significantly change how people interpret the final 24 hours. But again, the problem remains the same. The timeline is inconsistent. Different accounts describe different versions of the same night. Some calm, some tense, some strategic, and some emotional. And that's why questions continue to grow. What exactly happened that night? Who was involved in those private conversations? And why don't all the accounts match? As more statements surface, the timeline becomes harder to pin down, not easier. Now, there are even suggestions that Charlie's parents may eventually step forward to share their perspective publicly. Some believe their account could bring much-needed clarity to the situation. If that ever happens, it could significantly reshape the entire discussion. Because at this point, people aren't asking for speculation. They're asking for consistency. They want one clear, stable version of events, not shifting explanations. Right now, the details don't fully align, and that lack of consistency is what keeps the conversation alive. And as long as those gaps remain, people will continue to compare accounts, question timelines, and look for answers.